Hello, everyone. I decided to do a literature review on video modeling and video self-modeling. I chose two separate articles on this topic, and I have split up the PowerPoint into four different sections. The first section is going to be the introduction, which I will summarize the articles. The second section will be the methods that were used. The third section will be the results that were yielded, and the fourth section will be any implications that were brought about during the studies. So I chose two articles. The first article is called Increasing Social Engagement in Young Children with Autism Spectrum Disorders Using Video Self-Modeling. This article's primary purpose focused on examining the benefits of video self-modeling intervention in increasing the social engagement of young children with ASD. The study also expanded to previous research on video self-modeling by measuring social interactions with same-age peers rather than with adults. The video clips that are featured in the article are children with ASD interacting with peers without the presence of adult prompting. In addition, the study also focused on social engagement in a natural setting, the preschool classroom, rather than in a controlled clinical setting. And the present study, it also addressed a limitation of existing research by studying the effects of video self-modeling alone without the use of other intervention strategies, which could be prompting, reinforcement, and other types of completion of target behavior responses. Um, the study also improved upon existing research by measuring the social validity of the video self-modeling procedure, which I will go to more in depth a little bit in the methods. The second article I reviewed was a meta-analysis of video modeling and video self-modeling interventions for children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorders. I found that including adolescents was pretty interesting. The purpose of this study was to provide kind of a synthesis of the existing research as well, and studies on video modeling interventions for children and adolescents with ASD. The analysis examined intervention, maintenance, and generalization effects of video modeling and video self-modeling interventions across three different categories: social communication skills, functional skills, and behavioral functioning. So the main purpose of the study, or the final purpose you could say, was to determine whether video modeling interventions meet the criteria for evidence-based practices. So Okay, for the methods section, I found these articles by searching through the Aurora School Library website. I was reading through a few different articles pertaining to the video self-modeling and video modeling and narrowed it down to these two. I felt that the um, meta-analysis of video modeling was very interesting because it compared articles within itself, but it was not a literature review. So that kind of led me to choose that. And it also had the same authors as the increasing social engagement article. So I found that to be very interesting. So for the methods in increasing social engagement in young children using the video self-modeling, this study used two preschool age students with ASD. They even named them in the study. The students, they were classmates in the same half-day public preschool program. The intervention was conducted in their preschool classroom, which consisted of 7 students and 5 children with disabilities and 2 non-disabled peers, and then 2 teachers as well. The dependent variable in the study was the unprompted social engagement with peers. Examples of social engagement, they include pushing or being pushed in a wagon, taking turns during a board game, playing jointly with paint, Play-Doh, building blocks, brushes, cars, dolls, and other social engagement activities such as those. The intervention procedures that were used, so the video footage was collected 2 weeks before collecting the baseline data. Video recording took place over 3 different days, and approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes of raw footage was collected. During the 3 days of the video recording, the children with ASD were frequently prompted by their classroom teachers to facilitate social interactions with peers. So these videos the teachers were being videoed while doing the prompting and doing the social engagement, which is part of the self-modeling, video self-modeling part aspect. So then after that, the videos were then edited to remove the continual prompting that was delivered by the teacher, so those hidden supports, and then to eliminate all interactions that were considered inappropriate or ineffectual. So that ended up having 3 clips of approximately 2 minutes in duration for each participant, so for the 2 boys. The intervention phase of the study, it lasted for 17 school days and for 4 weeks. The children viewed the videotape at the beginning of each school day to promote consistency within the videos. They watched the video in the presence of a member of the school staff that was designated to watch it with them. And then teachers were instructed to refrain from prompting or reinforcing the social interactions of the 2 children or their classmates during the 30-minute observational period. For the meta-analysis of video modeling and video self-modeling interventions for children and adolescents with ASD, the first component for their method was that the participants must have been identified as having ASD. 3 studies included a combination of participants with ASD and other developmental disabilities in this specific article, and in these cases the data was analyzed only for participants with ASD. Also, the study must have utilized outcome measures that targeted behavioral functioning, social communication skills, or functional skills. The study must have assessed the efficacy of video modeling or video self-modeling interventions alone, or in combination with other intervention strategies, which could be self-monitoring, reinforcement, and interventions that did not depict a video representation of self or other as a model. They were excluded from this study. The study also said that they must utilize a single subject research design and then demonstrate experimental control such as multiple baseline reversal or alternating treatment designs. So these articles had to have all of the main aspects of a basically evidence-based practice. The study also recalled for presented data in graphical displays that predicted individual data points rather than just aggregated data like bar charts, as these graphs were critical to the determination of intervention effectiveness with these video modeling. And then based on recommendations by Horner and colleagues for determining evidence-based practices, the meta-analysis included only studies published in peer-reviewed journals. 23 studies met all the criteria and were included in this quantitative analysis, and 6 additional studies that examined video modeling or video self-modeling with children with ASD but did not meet inclusion criteria were excluded from the quantitative analysis. So this article really focused on looking at 26 different articles on video modeling and video self-modeling before conducting their own analysis. So for the results section, on the increasing social engagement in young children article, the first participant, I'll call him participant A, mean percentage of social engagement during baseline was 3% and reflected a flat trend in performance. His engagement, it increased to 43% during the intervention phase, which is great, with a slight increasing performance trend as well. On the last day of the intervention, his rate dropped back to 3% of the observed intervals. So both the data collector and the classroom teacher noted that he was consumed in solitary play during that period of time, which kind of really reflects how children are on a daily basis. You don't really know. One day they could be getting that 43%, and the next day they're getting that 3%. So during the next observation, participant A's level of engagement returned to the previous levels, back up to about 50%, and then his mean percentage of engagement increased to 52% during the maintenance phase, with a decreasing trend. So he also exhibited an increase in social engagement above baseline levels after 3 viewings of the video clips, which is pretty good for only viewing it 3 times. And then in addition, the data collector assigned to participant A and observed an increase in parallel play on the first day that the video was shown to him. But however, the parallel play was not counted as a type of social engagement because it did not meet the definition of social engagement for this article. So the second participant, so we'll call him participant B, mean percentage of social engagement was 6% at baseline, and it reflected a really flat and straight increasing trend. He exhibited a slight increase in social engagement on the last day of the baseline phase, so a little bit different than participant A. His percentage of social engagement then decreased to 0% during the first day of the intervention phase. Participant B's mean percentage of social engagement then increased to 24% during the intervention phase with an increasing performance trend. So after the first intervention phase, or the first watching the video, it did increase to 24% of having more social engagement. So then his mean percentage of social engagement increased to 33% during the maintenance phase, with a flat increasing trend. And as with the case with participant A, data collector assigned to participant B observed an increase in parallel play on the first day of the video self-modeling intervention, but again, the parallel play behavior was not counted as social engagement. So it's really interesting that they did not count parallel play as social engagement, although parallel play does fall in between the pulling the wagon, responding back and forth. So I found that to be pretty interesting. The next article on the, on the on the meta-analysis of video modeling and video self-modeling interventions. Their results are different because it was studying 22 different studies. They demonstrated experimental control through the introduction or removal of the independent variable, which was the children's engagement, across 3 or more points in the time. The intervention sessions, they ranged in like from 4 minutes to 33 seconds. The intervention sessions, they range in length from 4 to 33 sessions. So was a good amount of sessions. And during the duration of the video clips ranged from 30 seconds to 13 minutes. Of the 22 studies using a multiple baseline or probe design, 16 used a multiple baseline only design, and 3 studies used a multiple baseline and changing condition design. It was interesting that they did rely on interventions that were conducted in the school, the home, clinical, and community settings, with school being the most common setting, which I think we see mostly for intervention happening mostly at school because it is the easiest for parents and for the children. And it usually has a lot of routines already set up in place with professionals around. So 9 of these studies, I found this interesting in this article, measured the intervention fidelity, and only 4 studies measured the social validity. So a number of studies examined the efficacy of video modeling and video self-modeling interventions in teaching social skills and play behaviors to children and adolescents with ASD. One of the articles, Wert and Nisworth, examined the effectiveness of video self-modeling and teaching on children with ASD to make spontaneous verbal requests in school settings. During structured play sessions with peers, the children were prompted to make requests for play items. The video was then edited to remove all adult prompts so that when the children watched the video, they observed themselves responding spontaneously and independently. So the video self-modeling intervention led to substantial increases in spontaneous verbal requests in all 4 children participating in the study, and gains were maintained at intervention levels throughout the follow-up phase. So the last slide, the implications for practice. So when I think about video modeling and how to implement this in practice, I think about the children that I am currently working with and that I have worked with. A lot of them have a very difficult time learning pretend play skills, especially when they are very nonverbal. So I feel that the video modeling for pretend play would really increase a child's participation in pretend play skills, especially if in the video the exact materials that were presented to the child after reviewing the material or the video would increase the children's participation to pretend play. This could be done mostly, it could be done in the school setting or at home. It could also be done in a natural environment where there is a video of children pretend playing on the playground. We could do video self-modeling of a child sitting at a table to eat dinner or lunch and only cut out and show him the times when he or she is sitting down at the table, maybe a 30-second clip, but as they did in these articles, kind of cut out the those non-preferred behaviors of getting up, walking away, jumping on the table, or jumping on the table, sitting on the table, jumping on the couch. I also think that we could use video self-modeling to teach turn taking, especially if, the parents are able or willing to let you record their child, especially if they have a sibling. The sessions can be recorded with the therapist using prompting. And then once again, the unwanted behaviors can be cut out and the child could view the play session happening without those unwanted behaviors, and it may decrease them. As it does say in these articles, it does decrease them a little bit. I was also thinking of using, like, video modeling is really a great, effective way in teaching children new skills, especially because how important technology is for children these days. Most children find technology to be the most reinforcing aspect of their treatment or intervention. So overall, I really found that using video modeling would really increase pretend play skills, social interactions, parallel play, as they mentioned in the articles, teaching turn taking, modeling how to play on the playground, how to play tag. There's so many different activities and goals that can be targeted using video modeling.